In today's episode, I'm going to share with you how to recognize and deal with the pitfalls of uncovering an origin story that allows you to generate more cash, but also at the same time brings out a load of stuff that maybe you didn't deal with because you weren't ready for. How do you move forward? This is Speak on Stage. I'm Dave Crane. My job is to teach you how to jump and grow wings on the way down. So this is actually episode 3 of season 4. That's dedicated. I've got loads of interviews and stuff lined up for this actually season of the podcast. Visual version of it, video version of it, and also the audio version of it. Same thing apart from the fact you can't see what's going on with the audio. That's how it works. This is episode 3. And we've started off talking about your origin story, about the importance of knowing who you are, all the things you had to deal with in your life, and turning it around so you realize that there were special lessons that you got from it. And when you put them front and center as to who you are, it helps you to market yourself to a new audience, endearing yourself to an old audience, but also have people who are going through a similar experience to turn around and say, you know what, I really like you, let's do business together. Now, there are lots of challenges involved in it, and I've gone through them in the first 2 episodes. The first episode is my own experience, which I want you to use as a template, so when you look at yours, you can see the questions I asked myself and the things I had to go through. The last episode, which was episode 2, was all about what you need to do, the questions you need to ask yourself. Now that you've got this whole roadmap to move forward, I want to be able to spend today's session helping you to overcome some of the challenges that are going to throw themselves forward, all the pitfalls, all the things that are not easy to deal with. And then on episode 4, we're going to bring it all together, put it in perspective, and give you a lot of different ways to be able to turn it into real cash, into real experience, and ask yourself better questions about the whole thing. Now, this is very much dedicated to anybody who wants to go for a reinvention. Here's one of the things that I find when I'm speaking on to lots of people in my business and speaking on stage and interviewing people and connecting and so on. There's a certain age where you don't care. If you're young and you're out there and you're doing stuff, you're bothered about your legacy. You're building it as we go. If you're upset about something, you just spend more time with your friends and have fun and go out and party and drink and meet people or whatever it is that you do. It's only later on when life catches up with you and maybe you've got a family, maybe you've got a challenge with your job or you're stressed out for your business, a number of different things that it really catches up with you and makes you have to reinvent who you are, where you are, and what you have to do next. So with that, I want to share with you, today is very much all about the pitfalls and challenges that we have to deal with when it comes to moving forward. So what does that mean? Why does it matter? Why should we consider all that? Well, first of all, as mentioned earlier, this is Speak on Stage, and welcome to the show. Hope you're enjoying the experience so far, and I hope you got lots of questions. We broadcast live, by the way, but you can also ask questions later on, and I'll go back through the comment section and also answer anything that's been outstanding that you hadn't got through. So it's about the pitfalls of discovering your own personal origin story. And if you think, well, what does origin story mean? Think about superheroes. They've all got an origin story, who they are, where they started off, how they got to be who they were, and why it's so important to be driven the way that they are. Now, often you end up in a situation where you're so close to yourself, you don't even know what's going on. It's like a fish looking for water. What's this water that everyone talks about? Well, you're in it. No, it's too obvious. It's obvious. In this case, you're often too close. You don't notice the challenges, and I want to be able to help you to step back and go, oh, actually, there's gold in them there hills. And you'll say, what accent is that, Dave? And I'll say, I made it up. It's a weird accent, and I'll never use it again until the next time I do. So, who should watch this show? I've mentioned before, I say it again, you should be interested in this if you're a CEO or the founder as a leader. You're also a senior executive or a director or so on, entrepreneurs, startups, consultants and freelancers, industry experts who are out there analyzing data, academic leaders, authors and speakers, game changers who are doing different things in the market that other people aren't doing. If you're over 50s and you're thinking, my job's on the line here, they're going to replace me with somebody cheaper. What can I do with all my skills? What can I do with all my experience? And how can I create a side hustle or even just go out as a freelancer consultant or create something alongside my job? Because it's kind of fading me out, but at the same time, I know I've got loads to offer. If that's you or something similar, then this show is perfect for you. Just give me 2 seconds. I think my wife's trying to contact me, and she's not. She just keeps sending me messages and waving. That's nice and not at all inappropriate for when you're doing a live show. So that's what we're talking about, season 4, and welcome to it. As always, let me know where you are, what you're going through. If you have any challenges I don't cover, then send me a message directly, and I'll help you wherever I can with whatever I'm doing. Before we start, let me tell you that my book is available online shortly. It's the Thought Leaders Playbook. It looks like that. That's the front cover with some amazing dignitaries who've given their testimonial about what a great book it is. And all the stuff I do with my Speak on Stage show, and all the stuff I do on stage, and all the things I teach people in my Industry Icon program are all compressed into this book in bite-sized chunks, so you can do it all yourself, or you can fast-track it by working with me. If you want to work with me, then the easiest way to do it is this. If you got your visual version of this, and you're watching it online, maybe on Spotify, or on YouTube, or on LinkedIn, or Facebook, whatever it is, then you can get a QR code reader, or just a photo. Just hold your camera up, and it should scan, and give you the option of pressing a button that takes you to the website, which allows you to then apply to join to become a thought leader through my Industry Icon program, and I will mentor you and work with you one-to-one on getting you up to a really high level. The people I work with have incredible success stories. The very least they tend to make is about 5 figures, that's in pounds or dollars, but it goes up to 6 and to 7 figures in many cases, being offered that every single week because they've grown their brand, is speaking on stages, traveling around the world and finding a whole new range of opportunities just because they're doing what they did before, but they're now able to tell people what it is that they do and amplify their impact as part of their marketing. If your budget is slightly less than that, you might want to just get details about the book, or even get started today. Here is the How to Be a Business Rockstar, and this is go to www.speakonstage.com/rockstar. Just enter your details there, and you can instantly download a PDF with a load of different things and tasks and questions and stuff you can do to start building up your own rockstar profile. And last but not least, you get the opportunity to join our Turbo community. Again, another QR code, which is really frustrating. If you're on the podcast and you're listening to it as audio, thinking, Dave, why don't you just tell us? Just tell us where the website is, and I'll remember it as I'm driving and looking at different road signs to Llandudno and John O'Groats and London. I'm really in the centre of the UK. I've got no idea where I'm going. Or any other country substituted for that. But I've got a Turbo community of over 400 people in. And for free, I teach them different skills for a 5-day course every month. And this month is all about how to get your origin story and do something with it so you can turn it into cash. And if you're interested in that, just DM me directly, or even better, faster, is look for the credits here or my previous posts, because I always put it around somewhere. Just say, Dave, where is it? And I'll go over there. And that's as good as you're going to get. Right. So let's get started with this, all about the pitfalls of doing it. It's all about business storytelling. Business storytelling, but I think the most important story that you ever tell is yours. One thing to talk about your customers and clients, and it's great to be able to chat about them, but people need to be able to put it in perspective. What makes you love a musician's music? Is it because you know the music's good, or is it because you know who they are, who's making the music? Maybe both, maybe neither. But when you can identify with the reason why that musician or actor or sports person is now doing as well as they are and what they had to go through to get to that stage, it kind of makes you warm to them. And it also means that you buy into them as a person more. So if their flaws show through, or their challenges show through, or they have a really bad performance, or they go through a number of different difficulties that maybe nobody suspected they were going to go through, you kind of forgive them because you know who they are and you're with them for this journey. And in many cases, you love them even more because you know that they're coping with a ton of stuff to get to a level that they've got to. So business storytelling is really important, and that's why you need to think about what you're going to tell people as part of your own personal story and your origin that you can share and market to the rest of the world. With me so far? Good. If you're not, rewind the show, watch from the beginning, and good luck with that. So I'm going to ask you some questions. This is all about the questions I really want to get across to you about different things you've got to do to create that success for you. So starting with this, which things have you never told anybody that you kept to yourself? Because that's really where your origin begins. it's going to get uncomfortable for you to be able to move forward, and you are going to find a lot of things that jump out at you. You're going, I don't want to deal with that. That's something that I'd rather leave in secret. But if you do analyze it, you might find that there's answers in there, and you go, oh, that's how it all comes together. That's why I did that. That's why I always find a challenge with this. Success leaves clues, so do failures. And you might be repeating the same mistake again and again and again for strangest reasons. One of the things is, you may or you may not know that I'm actually a hypnotherapist and a stage hypnotist. I don't practice hypnotherapy quite so much as I used to. I sometimes do it with corporate groups, but certainly stage hypnosis shows I do. Now, if you're thinking, Dave, this is rubbish, stage hypnosis isn't real, how could you possibly say it is? Then let me give you an example of a piece from a show. Have a look at this.
Cheerleading.
Yeah, why?
Because the fans are asking for it.
Okay, and you, what were you doing?
Cheerleading.
Because?
My club is winning.
Oh, your club's winning, okay. Well, come back up here, come back on stage now. And the thing is, we're going to see who was the best one. Just cheer. If you think that the best cheerleader was this gentleman over here, cheer now. If you think the best cheerleader is this one over here, cheer now. I've got to say, from the crowd reaction, you were both excellent. Give them both a massive round of applause! So if that was visual and you were listening to the podcast, you have no idea what that noise is about. If you were just watching it, then you see a hypnosis show and me getting some guys to do crazy stuff on stage. Now, here's the thing. I was talking about the stuff that forms you. When you're a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist, when you change somebody's attitude towards something, you go back to what's called the initial sensitizing event. And that means that at some point, something happened that made him feel a certain way. So, for instance, my late father, when I stopped him smoking on his 60th birthday, and he never smoked again for the rest of his life for 18 years. What had caused the cigarettes was when he was a small child during at the end of the Second World War, everything was being rationed, and his mum wanted to get more cigarettes, so she'd send out the little boy who was 3 years old and his sister who was 5 years old to go up to strangers with coupons, because you needed coupons to be able to get rations. She'd have food rations, and he'd ask for cigarette rations. So he was petrified going up to strangers, but she'd make him do that because nobody's going to turn him down and not give him cigarette stuff. His little toddler. And she used to do that to get extra cigarettes. And so he had it built into his system about the need to have cigarettes. And then we did hypnosis and we regressed him back. So we got that as it's called the initial sensitizing event that created the smoker that he became. And then when he was 13 years old, his mum bought him a cigarette holder, which he was really proud of, and so on. And so for 60 years, well, actually, if you take it back to his first cigarettes, about the age of 11, say. So 49 years he'd been a smoker. And it was all because when he was a toddler, his mum had got him out to accept subconsciously, because kids can't really distinguish, that cigarettes are good for you because your mum says so. Now, every single person has got these things built into them. Why they have certain habits, why they do certain things, and it's usually below the surface, so you have no idea what's caused it. Now, I showed an image a couple of weeks ago about what happens with your mind. And this isn't going to explain how hypnosis works, but it gives you a little idea about the conscious bit that you deal with is what everyone sees. That's a bit on the surface. Success, success, success. But below it is all the different things that people go through. Now, there is another map I will show you at a future date which explains exactly how the different parts of your mind works. But let's just say that you wouldn't have the success on the surface unless you've been through all those different challenges. And as a hypnotherapist, what my job is to flip them round so success goes under the surface, all the other things come out, and then I change their relationship to you, so therefore you don't feel like that. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at it. Failure starts to become success. Sacrifice starts to become results. Disappointment starts to become a numbers game that when things go wrong, then at least you're getting closer to where you need to be. Hard work and do you get the idea of what I'm talking about? Dedication that people don't see there becomes getting stuff so you get results that you want. You see the general idea of flipping it around? Well, that's what happens with your relationship with yourself and your mind when you do hypnotherapy. So let's go back to where we were. What things have you never told anybody about? And how can we use them to make you move forward faster? So you've got to be ready to, got to be ready to take some challenges with this whole thing. Are you ready to deal with the truth? Well, for many people, you might not be, especially if you've had childhood trauma or you've had some kind of accident, or you're thinking, well, you know what, I've just got over this divorce. I'm just now happy. I don't want to go back into it again to learn who I am and where I am and all the rest of it. And I understand that completely. Sometimes it's best to keep things as they are. But if you really want to move forward faster, you have to make changes. Let me give an example. For most people, they're carrying baggage of some kind. So you're carrying behind you all this baggage and you can't move forward because it's just too heavy. Well, what happens if you get that baggage and you put it in front of you, and instead of it pulling you back, you turn it into an engine of things that you've overcome that pull you forward faster? Can you imagine how fast you would go with that whole experience? That's what hypnotherapy does. NLP helps you with that. And also that's why it's important that you do confront these things, because it's like an itch that you can't scratch. You might have it in your life forever until you fix it and you go, is that all it was? Wow. My itch that I couldn't scratch, the thing that held me back and stopped me being successful, and there's more in it in the first episode, is really about the fact that when I was about 2 years old, living in Stockton in the northeast of England, me and my friends were playing in the streets, and as kids do, and we all went round to my friend's house to go and play, and the mum closed the gate on me and wouldn't let me in. This was the 1970s, maybe even late 1960s, and there's a different relationship towards race and so on. She didn't want me in her house. Black kid, everyone else wasn't. Don't get him in. So that stuck in my head, and it replayed itself that I'm never allowed onto the top table. Other people will get there other than me. So I did really good things, and then I would stop just before I got judged and walk away and do something else. So I'd always get to a really high level, but never top table. You might have the same experience, and the challenging thing is you might not even know that's causing it. So are you ready to deal with the truth when it comes along? That's your question. Now, I've talked about this before. What does society value most? I'm not going to go on for too long. It's dominance, success, and virtue. You have to be ready to start showing that what you've learned has actually made you dominant, that you are successful, and you do believe in your own values and mission and so on. That gives you virtue. This is what's regarded by every society everywhere as important. You may or may not know that, but you have got a number of reasons why you should turn around and use this template to allow yourself to be seen as successful. So how do we use this stuff to succeed? Very simple. When you own your origin story and you apply it to your audience, then they will turn around and say, oh, okay, I didn't know that about you. That's interesting. You were really far deeper than I thought you were, with more experience than I believed. Even if it's a different level of experience in a different industry, it still counts to make you a more rounded person. Maybe I should pay more attention to what you have to say with me as well. So here's a couple of questions. What if you don't get instant results? So what? Look, here's the thing. How do you run a marathon? Do you run 26 miles? What if you're not very fit? What if you get tired halfway through and can't run? You got to walk. Running a marathon is a challenge, but doing a marathon isn't. All you do is put one foot in front of the other and repeat. And you keep doing it until you get to the end of your marathon. Do you understand what I'm talking about here? It's really about the question of not getting instant results. You don't want instant results. There's another example of this. Have you ever looked at somebody who's won the lottery. Some crazy percentage, like 99% or maybe at least 80% of people who win the lottery end up being poorer than they were before the lottery came along 5 years after they won. Why? Because they didn't know how to handle money. So that means that when they get this huge stack of money, they go, ha ha, but they've still got no money intelligence. Financial intelligence is just not the microphone, I'm sorry, that's the noise that you just heard. So they're spending money left, right, and center, taking on deals they had no experience about, and getting conned by people into investing into stuff that didn't work but pays out really well to them. And they end up in debt because they're still spending money and they're worse than they were before. So it's really about getting there on that journey. It's about that learning curve. I'm going to give you a little glimpse about what I'm talking about now when we talk about the industry icon roadmap. Have a look at this. So this is, I won't talk about it too much today, but the 6 sections to what I teach people about how to become an industry icon. First one is about awareness, then it's about the aspiration to be who you need to be, then it's driving in the right direction, then it's repositioning yourself so people know that you are the person to deal with and you don't waste your time talking to people who are not interested in it. Fifth one is refining, so all the stuff that you take to market, to sell, you realize actually I don't need all that, they're only interested in 1 or 2 things, I'll leave the rest at home and get there faster. And finally 6 is owning your industry, so your name becomes a verb. And people turn around and say, that's the person I want to deal with. Can we get that person? No. Can we get somebody like that person? But you become a name that is synonymous with success in your particular area. Now, I wanted to show you this because see the learning curve. It's an S curve. Starts off slowly, starts to pick up, starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until at the very end of it, you're right at the very top. It's like snakes and ladders, but that only goes at a certain pace. But as you get bigger and better at doing it and you put things in place, that whole progression becomes a lot more effective and easier to create. So I hope that makes sense to you about what I was talking about instant results. Right. Next question is this. And these are the questions I had initially in last episode's podcast, and I'm answering them about the pitfalls. So I asked about which part of your expertise is most valuable. That's what you had to work on. And the question is, what happens to the stuff that's got no value to other people? So you go through and you look at the question, what part of your expertise is most valuable? I learned how to recover from a school of hard knocks and get up there. So therefore, that's good. Yeah, but what if people haven't gone through the school of hard knocks? What if it's only you? What if the things that you learned, like going jogging, doesn't have any relevance to people who don't want to go jogging because they just don't like doing that kind of exercise? Well, that's fine. You don't have to have it applied to anybody. Sometimes it just needs to apply to you to allow you to move forward. And sometimes you can turn around and find something that works for other people because you've taken what you learned, you've given it a different spin, and then you shared it with them. So let's take that perspective. So let's go with the idea that you go jogging every night as part of your learning curve to get yourself fit and keep the weight down. Somebody says, I don't like jogging, I don't want to lose weight, I'm skinny as it is. What do you get from that whole experience? You can say, well, it's about dedication, it's about consistency, it's about keeping an eye on what your diet is, not just your mental diet and your physical diet, but also your emotional diet. It's also about making sure that you have time management so you don't actually lose anything else. When you're taking your jogging time, it is your private time. It's also making sure your journey is more comfortable. So maybe you listen to music as you go, making sure you've got the right equipment and clothing that you go so you don't end up getting blisters over your feet because you're running in sandals rather than wearing training shoes. All these different things can come from life lessons. So you don't have to worry necessarily about there's no value. You just maybe have to tweak it so it does make sense to other people as well. Okay, so then the question came up, who will pay you for that and how do they need it packaged? And the question I wanted to share with you on the back of that is this. What happens if nobody pays? So you've worked out who your template is, who wants it and so on, and then you say, right, nobody's bought it yet. Well, this is a question about marketing, and it's also a question about asking that first question again, who wants it and who will pay for it? If the answer is nobody but you, well, you're not going to make a lot of money. You've got to do some research, put it out into the market, see what people are after. And the easiest way to do this is to ask, what are people paying for? What's the biggest headache that somebody has? How can I find a remedy for that? So if you've got a number of different things that you can do, a number of things that you can share, look for the lowest hanging fruit. Who needs this? Where are they? What will they pay? Is that going to be good enough for me? If the answer is yes, then that's what I want to do. So you shouldn't end up in a situation where nobody pays. Because you might have something that's amazing, but nobody else but you is interested. Let me put this in perspective. Let me put in this particular diagram, which is called the hedgehog concept by Jim Collins in his 2 books that I read about it, which is Built to Last and Good to Great. Brilliant books, all about what makes a company last for 100 years before it kind of like needs to have a facelift. So let's look at these 3 circles, which you can't do with the podcast. I'll describe them for you. 3 circles. First one is what's the best? Is it a Venn diagram? What is it that you're best at? What are you passionate about? And what drives your economic engine? So what I was talking about is what happens if nobody pays. That's your economic engine. Then you end up with something that's not sustainable. Can you see that? The red one and the blue one, but not the green one. So you do something that's not sustainable. So what would that mean? So what are you best at? You make the most amazing paper planes. What are you passionate about? Creating paper planes. What will people pay for? Well, nobody wants to buy my paper planes. So just do them for you. Yeah, but I want to make a living from it. Nobody's willing to pay. Just do it for you. Dave, why are you shouting at me? Because I just think that your hobby is rubbish. Yeah, I shouldn't say that because I just made it up. And I never say that to people anyway, but I do sometimes turn around and say it's got no commercial value at this moment in time. I'm going to say, yeah, but what if I can get an audience together? Why bother? Why don't you just go to an audience that needs something and see what you have that they need? It's easier. You could spend forever getting people to be interested in something. And what happens is you're sometimes far too early. I did that. I've done it many times. I've come up with stuff that was really innovative and miles ahead of the case, and now everyone does it. But I was like 5-10 years in advance of everybody else doing it. Do you get paid for that? Well, sometimes you do, but most of the time you're ahead of a learning curve. So you just deal with it and move on. It's what it is. You've got to be where... I mean, here's another thing that's really strange about this. And I watched this fascinating show all about how to launch products. And I said, if you want to launch a product, don't launch a product that's amazing and everyone goes, wow, that's fantastic. Launch a product that's a slight addition to something that they already have. And everybody will buy it. Why? Because they've already bought into the existing one. That heavy lifting's been done. But if you can get something that's like an upgrade on it, oh yeah, I've got a better phone, got a better watch. Think about what they do when they upgrade stuff. They know you're already in, and they know you'll pay to keep it going. So they just charge you to get something better than you already had, rather than give you something completely different that you didn't really want. Do we all want to fly around the world with jetpacks rather than planes? Woohoo! Yes, that'd be great. Jetpacks already exist. Do you want one? No, I'll get on a plane, thanks. Why? I like eating food, watching movies, and going to sleep, actually. I don't want to fly. See what I mean? Plus, also, it's not quite right. It's a prototype, and it only goes for about 8 minutes. Don't know where you're going to go in 8 minutes. For shops and back, with a lot of noise. Okay, so let's go back to the questions. What happens if nobody pays? We've already covered that. And now the question was, have you cross-referenced your own life? That means going through who you are, what you've done, and wondering if there's a pattern to everything. Well, it's going to be challenging, but here's the thing. You can't make an omelette without breaking some eggs. If you want to eat a lovely omelette, you're going to have to some point turn around and crack some eggs. Oh no, I don't like Michelle being broken. Well, you won't get eggs then, will you? You won't get an omelette. And so you have to go through this experience, but just make sure that you do things to make it easier for yourself. Have a very strong support network. Make sure you've got things that make you happy, and only go as far as you want to when you're ready at that time. If you really want to do it properly, do it with a mentor or a coach or a therapist. Somebody can deep dive and support you, maybe with a partner. But if you do it with a partner, you usually have to have full transparency. And do you want to go on about your past relationships to your new partner without them going, ugh, or ooh, or oh my goodness, you're a psycho? Don't really, so be very careful about who you share it with. Next question is this. What do people say about your brand when you leave a room? It's a question. And the question that I really want to say is, what if they don't really like you? Or even worse, what if you don't really like who you are? So you've worked on your brand, people know who that is, and you hate it. And you're saying, Dave, how could that possibly be? Well, it happens to a lot of people. There's a lot of people who've worked really hard on something and just realized it was a lie. Spent your entire time working as a sports person or entire time being a stockbroker. Sorry, I'm not falling off a chair. Just get myself a coffee in my Kajabi mug. Yes, that's how we build ourselves a Kajabi. That's good coffee, and I think I burnt my face. I was going to have some more, though. Just bear with me a second. Still good coffee. Right, so there's lots of people who go through changes of career and we decide they don't want to do it anymore. You may be a soldier or a policeman, and you decide that I don't want to work in this particular industry, I want to swap to somebody else. A lot of people go through that. There's nothing wrong with it. Even yawning is fine. Excuse me. That's why I had the coffee. It makes sense if you do it in reverse. If you put the show backwards, you'll have me yawning, then drinking the coffee like it was a solution. But when you listen to what I said, it'll be coffee. It'll make no sense. Like that didn't. Okay, so what if you don't really like who you are? Then that's part of it. But you've got no choice. You are who you are, but you can change things. And you have to make sure that you're not too hard on yourself, as well as being not too smug about who you are. Finding a happy balance means that you resonate with other people. All right, so then the question comes up, what matters most to you? If you can work that out, then it's easier to be able to start sharing that with people because they're very proud of it. But also, what matters most to others? What matters most to you really does matter to you, but that doesn't mean it's commercial. It doesn't mean you necessarily want to share it. I've been mad for superheroes for a very, very long time. Luckily enough, superheroes are the biggest movies in the cinema for now. Anyway, so I get lots of superhero movies and TV shows and all the rest of it, but I grew up with comics. Does it matter to everybody else then? No, it didn't then. It was me, Mr. Geek. Now everybody gets it, so that's fine. But I also don't care about it quite so much, partly because I'm really old. No, that's not true, I still do. But because everybody else is into it, it's watered, it's more commercial, more access to it. So you have to work out what works for everybody else. That's important. If you want to sell it, but there's nothing wrong with keeping this stuff to yourself, or at least keeping some of it to yourself. I hope you're with me right now. I'm talking about learning who you are and what you offer to the world. So how can you harness who you are and what you do to boost your trust and credibility? These are questions I asked on my last podcast. And here's the question you ask yourself. Which core wound have you been fighting for your whole life? So how can you harness it? That's what you have to work out. What's your route to market? And then what core wound have you been fighting your whole life? I talked about this and I already mentioned this to me. I had my own one, which was that I grew up as a different color to all the kids I went to school with. And therefore, I overcompensated on trying to fit in. And then the question is, what if you can't fix this problem? Well, fix what you can. Maybe get help. Maybe put a pin in it and say, I'll come back to it later. But at no point do you end up leaving yourself feeling vulnerable and terrible, because this is all about you doing stuff for you. If you can't fix it, maybe it's a time issue. Leave it for a little while, come back. But what I found from experience really is life's about asking better questions. Then you get better answers. And if you want to know how that works, go into ChatGPT or Bard or any of these other things. Now, a lot of people are actually doing this, are turning to AI to ask questions and making a personal therapist or life coach. I would say take it with a pinch of salt, because ultimately, even though some of them are very good at communicating, there's no accountability. You don't know whether the algorithm was fed the story all about serial killer, and that's why it's telling you, what if I don't like people? Put them in the fridge. What? Well, that's what it learned. So you got to put, I'm joking, I'm making it up. But the point is that you have to be able to put it in perspective about how you fix it and what you do. Your solutions have to be yours. All right, next up, how can I escape my comfort zone? For those of you who aren't sure what a comfort zone is, it's where you feel that everything's great, but you won't change it. So typically your comfort zone is going to work, having a family, going to bed at the same time, having the same interests. On the weekend, maybe not working. Sorry, I'm yawning now. It's been a long day. Doing stuff that really is so obvious, but most people do that. They take a job and they rely on other people's way of moving forward. But here's where I believe the real problem is. When you take a job, I'm not knocking employers or even employees. Your job is to work as hard as you can to make somebody else rich. You're working your entire life and sacrificing it for their vision, not yours. You might get paid for it, that's your compensation, but it's about their vision of what the industry should react to, and they are a boss by the fact that they're doing that, and you accept it by working for them. Now that's a job, and I know that I can't really change your opinion on that, but I wanted to get you to understand the importance then of knowing what that means. Most people stay in a job. 98% of people do want to work for somebody else, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be successful. It means they'll be successful to a certain degree. But if you really want to make it work, you work for yourself. Even if it's just a side hustle that you will have alongside your daytime job that allows you to be able to reinvent yourself and move forward faster, it's still worth doing. And jumping and growing wings on the way down is how I recommend you get your blue ocean strategy, which is a story for another day. So I'm not going to spend too long on blue ocean strategy for obvious those reasons. So it talks about getting out your comfort zone. Another pitfall is, when did things change for you? Now, if you're wondering, what does that mean, Dave? You've got to watch the previous 2 episodes to get your head around it. But I'll explain slightly. When you go through your life, there's a certain time when something happens to you and you make a decision. And you go, I'm not going to do it like that. I'm going to do something else. It might be going through a divorce and getting out of a relationship. It might be moving town or going overseas. It might be, leaving a job and starting something new, or going back to college or university, or dropping out university and college and getting a job. It could be a ton of different things, but these are things that shape who you are. They shouldn't be ignored, even if you're not sure why they happened. So when did things change for you? You may have a problem with saying, well, what if nothing's changed for me? Everything I do is exactly the same. Well, in that case, I would suggest that you reconsider who you are, where you are, and get outside your comfort zone. Do stuff that really challenges you. Do stuff that makes you scared. Or put together a bucket list of all the things you want in your life and start making them happen every day. If you don't, and you stay with a life that's the same as it's always been, you're going to get results that you'd always had, and you weren't happy with them, which is why you're listening to this podcast in the first place. So trust me with that. All right. So therefore, you need to have a mentor. Somebody's going to work with you. My question is there, what if I can't find a mentor? Hello? I'm here. Dave Crane, yes, and I have communities of people that can help you. My Game Changers community, Turbocharger. I mean, there's lots of different ways. If you can't connect with me or you don't speak English, then you've probably not understood a single thing I've said just in the entire broadcast. But you can use AI to a degree to give you advice and give you some ideas that maybe you haven't come up with. But you don't have to live in your own head. You don't have to invent it all yourself. There are lots of ways of getting there, so you don't have to stress so much about it. You could be there just to interpret it, what's been thrown at you. Does that make sense? Good. All right. So what if I can't prove I'm the solution to other people's headaches? Difficult question. So you have a solution. You can't fix that solution for the people you're talking to. You then have to ask a question, which is that the right solution to their headache? Or is this a marketing problem? Are you not able to show that you have got proof and trust and credibility because you've got no evidence? These are all things that are a real challenge for many people, or maybe you're talking to the wrong people. Let me illustrate that for you. So, if I'm going to talk to you about who I am and what I do, then I have to have evidence that I've done it before. That might be a video, it might be a promo, it might be a brochure, it might be stuff like that. You need to be able to have evidence to say, this is me, and I've always done that. But also, there's a question. You might not be able to turn it into a commercial experience. You might only use it to do some soul searching and help yourself. But your life is about you. It means you have a happier ride. And remember, before you fix it for anybody else, you need to make sure that you're able to look after yourself. It's like the phrase about, if you've ever been on a plane, then the plane's flying, and I think it's usually before they take off, but when we're on the ground, the air hostesses will either play you a video or they'll stand up front and show you how to deal with challenges. So, for instance, the fire exits are here, 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 and here. And if you need the life jacket, it's underneath your belt. You put it underneath your seat. You put it on like this and toggle and blow into that, all the rest of it. And they also say that if the oxygen mask comes down, look after yourself before you look after anybody else. And they say that because if you were with a kid and you put up the kid and you pass out, the kid can't get you off a burning plane. But you can get the kid off a burning plane, even if you just get them through the smoke. Outside of it, then there's other people who can help you revive the kid. That's why it's important to look after yourself before you look after anybody else. And it's not being selfish, it's not being horrible, it makes sense. That's why I'm bringing it up, to share that with you. So let's go back to what that whole conversation started from. So you might not be able to help everybody else, but you can make yourself better and maybe help one person. Maybe you don't have yourself cut out to be a consultant for the entire market, but you work with one person as a mentor with them. Or maybe you just use that information to make your child stronger. Or somebody else's child. You help them and you just teach them and educate them from your life lessons. Does that make sense? Good. All right. Next up is this: who I am and what I do. Why is that important? Because if you put it back in perspective, you help one person, help yourself, help a child. I do that, but I also help other people. I have mentor decision makers to jump and grow wings on the way down. That helps them to go on stage, speak, create a personal brand, and exude trust and credibility, which turns into cash. You might not have that particular version, or you might have a different version of what you do, but it doesn't matter how big or small the impact is. It just has to have impact. You with me? Good. All right then. So this is me mentoring speakers and stagecraft at Google HQ, which is just evidence and more proof that I do what I do. So how do I market my origin story? When I realize who I am and what I do, how do you take it out to market? That's a whole new can of worms. In fact, before I go into that, let me see if I can share with you one of the systems that I use. So I've got a number of different programs which you can go to. If you go to www.speakonstage.com/upgrades. Okay, www.speakonstage.com/upgrades, and then you can find my programs for creating your own particular success. So let me talk about my own conclusions about life. Let me just sit and share with you a video for one of my programs before we actually get there, so you can see what it is that I do. And I know I should have prepared it beforehand. Let's talk about our Game Changers community. In fact, let's just talk about the importance of being a speaker. So when people come to me and say, Dave, I need to learn to speak, I say, yes, you do, because of this. This is your time. You worked very hard to get where you are, an inspiration to many, a mentor, a rainmaker, and a successful boss. But the one thing you've never done well is now the one skill you have to learn: public speaking. Great leaders throughout time have always shown their power from the stage. Now is the most essential ability for anybody to be seen as a change maker, industry expert, high achiever, or thought leader. Do you have a fear of public speaking? Are you missing out? Does your tribe need a chief executive officer who can command and motivate from on stage? Is your message getting lost because you need to be able to present from conferences, events, and global forums? My name is Dave Crane. I've worked on stage for over 4 decades. I've done every kind of entertainment, and I train leaders around the world to find their voice, realize their power, and dominate their industry. I've worked alongside some of the smartest names and most respected business coaches in the world. I train world leaders, industry experts, and high achievers to speak. What do you need? Do you need to share an idea, a theory, a formula, or an invention? Do you need to position yourself among the best of your peers as a key voice to lead into the digital age? Do you need to elevate and grow your personal brand? Are you ready to share stages and concepts among the most innovative minds, producing viral videos and great speeches on a global scale? Most leaders who are great communicators fail with a microphone because they don't know stagecraft. They don't know how to engage, entertain, and motivate large crowds. But when you do know how, it's just like breathing. So here's what you do next. Talk to me at speakonstage.com, and I'll help you become one of the very best speakers in the world. So let's go back to what the whole point was in showing you that particular video. That's what I do. If you think about my core challenge was about my ability to get on with everybody and my ability to just fit in, what I found is I discovered a martial art in communication. My ability to read people, speak to people, and get people to understand a message meant that I became a really good speaker. And that's why I travel around the world as a keynote speaker, hosting global events, and so on. You will find your way. And if you're thinking, Dave, how do I get it out to people? Well, I did mention before, how do I market my origin story? You need to consider a lot of different things, but why not start a podcast? Write a book, put it on your social media, create a meetup group or a community. There's lots of different ways of being able to do it. If you're not sure, contact me directly and I can help you. So there's a couple of things I would share with you before we finish today's episode. Tomorrow's episode, by the way, which will be fourth of the 3 that you've got so far, including this number 3 today, is all about how to bring it all together. So here's the the conclusions I came to. First one is this. Nobody can save you but yourself, so why are you waiting to be rescued? Number 2 is a system that you're in is designed to make you invisible, weak, and unprotected. So therefore, step outside the system, and then you start taking control about who you really are. I don't know if you can read this. If you're on your phone, it's probably tiny. So let's go to this size. Number 3, comfort zones break down your immunity to survive life's toughest challenges. Get out of your comfort zone, you become a lot tougher, and therefore you can deal with anything that's coming to you. So for instance, the pandemic was brutal and horrible, especially for me as an entertainer and a speaker. I had no gigs for about 2 years, but I had understood what it's like to be a freelancer and to run your own business. So therefore, the lack of money coming in was a challenge, but the challenge was, how are you going to replace that lack of money coming in? I still knew how to market, I still knew how to speak, I still knew how to communicate, I still knew how to get a business together that people would want to have. It took a little while and a lot of pivoting, but I still got through because of that whole comfort zone. I was never in an employment situation where the boss decides that they've got all the cards, they own me, and if they stop paying me, I can't pay for my family. I was never in that position, or at least I was many years ago, but I made sure that wasn't the case now. So it really matters about creating your right comfort zone. Number 4 is this. You might be able to do it alone, but it takes longer and is less fun. Get with the community. Get people who travel with you who can help you move forward. Number 5 is this. Every one of us had actually won our first race and beat 1 million sperms to fertilize the egg. Now, many people just stop competing. Well, I'm not saying carry on being a sperm. What I'm saying is you have actually got a level of success in your life, a 1 to 1 million opportunity that you took. So why would you stop moving forward now when you've got the evidence and you've got a real reason to do something special? All right, number 6 is you will live to 100, your kids will live to 120, and newborn kids today will get to 150. If you're retiring, and there's nothing wrong with retiring or taking a pension, or as it would be, just a regular income, but you are going to live for longer, it will not stay there and look after you unless something horrible happens to you. Now it's time to step up and become a rock star. And I'll give you at the end of today's session the QR code to be able to do that. All right, next up is this, which is the question about, if you could write a story with you in it, would you settle for an average life, or would you want it to be a bit more special? Well, that's a big question, and it's true. When you die, number 8, only know that your story helps others when it truly matters to them. So you helping others is a story that matters. So work on that now. That's your legacy. Number 9, if you're feeling sad, insignificant, or ignored, don't sit there and complain about it. You can for a while, but then channel it and use it to build your legacy, because it's uncomfortable. It's a tipping point, gets you to raise your game. And last but not least, number 10, if your friends don't understand what's going on with you, get new friends. Get a therapist if it's tough enough and you're having problems dealing with it. But it might be that your friends are not evolving at the same point as you and they don't get it, and they want you to stay inside a comfort zone because they're not ready to face their comfort zone in a different way. That's fine. Leave them who they are. Don't have to fall out with them, but find people who do get it and spend more time with them, because you get one life. You spend your entire time dumbing down who you are for everybody else. There's no guarantee that they'll do the same to you. They may go, you know what, you're really boring, I'm going to find somebody else. And for anybody who's ever been for a relationship or a change of that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It can be brutal. All right, any questions you've got, fire them at me, put them into the comments, DM me directly on whatever platform, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, or in WhatsApp, wherever you are connecting with me here, Instagram, then I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Just fire away, and I'm always here for you. I've got a number of programs that you can get onto and courses that'll help you to do this in your own time, or join me, work with me directly, or work with my community. So my Industry Icon program is the way that I help people to get to the highest possible level of what they do. My book, The Thought Leader's Playbook, will be available soon. Keep an eye out for it. But if you haven't got it yet, which you probably haven't, then you might want to work with me directly, in which case, get it from the horse's mouth. He said, my face looking like a horse. Maybe not. Don't do that noise again, Dave. I won't. The QR code is here if you're not watching it listening to an audio version of it. And you go to industry. I can go to actually speakonstage.com and you see all the links for this, or just hold up your phone to the QR code. Similarly, if you want to be a business rock star, if you're over 50, or you're just thinking, right, I'm really good at what I do, I want to monetize it, you can register for the new book. We'll take your details and we'll let you know when it's coming out. But also, you can get a free PDF to be able to move forward and ask yourself some incredible questions just by going to www.speakonstage.com/rockstar or using a QR code that you can see if you're not listening to a podcast on Spotify or wherever else it is. And last but not least, join our Turbocharge Your Career 5-day challenge community, a global community and a WhatsApp group of over 400 people there, really smart. And I give them a challenge every single month for about 5 days to raise their game and think, wow, that's really interesting, especially at the beginning of a brand new year. I don't know what the limits are for getting numbers in there, but you're very welcome. Just apply. And as long as you play properly and read the rules, then you're very welcome to be in our Turbo community, whatever level you are. I've got royals, I've got millionaires, I've got students, I've got housewives, I've got a whole range of different people, business owners mainly. I've got a lot of speakers in there. But I do one thing, which is to help people get across the finishing line based on the knowledge I have and help them to network with other people that can get them there even faster. So you can go to the QR code for this or DM me directly or look for my old posts, and there's plenty of opportunities to see the link to join our Turbocharge Your Career 5-day challenge community. And that's it for today's show. Thank you for being out with me and coming out to play. I hope there's a lot of value in there for you, and I hope that you can turn around and start working on this straight away. And I hope I managed to answer a lot of the questions that probably came up from last week's session. The next session I'm going to do is bring it all together, and I'm going to teach you how to then monetize every single part of what it is we're talking about. So make sure you stick around for that. And if you're not sure about how that fits in, go back and watch the other episodes, and make sure wherever you're watching this, you subscribe. Join me on social, subscribe to the podcast, or even subscribe for the videos. Doesn't matter. Go to YouTube. It's all there. And I look forward to catching you on the next show. Look after yourself. Remember, you have the ability to be amazing, and I am only here to facilitate and help to fast track you better. This is a podcast. This is Speak on Stage. Speak on Stage will teach you how to jump and grow wings on the way down. Until next time, look after yourself. My name is Dave Crane, and all the best.